Hi guys, and welcome to this live session by Intellipaat. So the topic on our hand today is how to become a data analyst. So we'll be discussing what is data, what is a data analyst, what does a data analyst do, what are the skills required, and all of that in today's session. But before we get into all of that, please subscribe to our channel to never miss an update from Intellipaat. Now let's begin with today's agenda. So today's agenda is basically fivefold. We'll be starting off by understanding what is data itself, and from there we'll move on and talk about what is data analytics. Once we have that in the bag, we'll talk about what are the skills which are required to be a data analyst. We'll be discussing what all do you need in order to land those jobs which you are looking at if you want to transform the world as a data analyst. And from there we'll move on and talk about few job descriptions which are posted recently, so you can understand what is the requirement of the industry right now. And from there we'll move on and talk about further learning section, where we'll be discussing what all you can do to become better into understanding data analytics and stuff like that. So that is about the agenda, guys. I hope that is very clear to you. So without wasting any further time, let's just get into the session. So what is this word data that we are talking about? Data has become an integral part of our lives. Everything that you do is data, from the files that you share, from the internet that you have, everything. So every bits and piece of information of in any shape or kind of form can be considered as data. Now what the interesting part about it is the fact that most of the businesses are now have become data driven. What does that mean? That means that basically almost all of the organizations are collecting data in some form or the other, and they use these data to find out different insights between different kinds of customers, different requirements, and different problems that they have, in order to make their processes most efficient and everything. So from everything that you want to do, in any problem that you have that you want to solve, all you need is the data of the past, so that you can understand where the problem lies into, and you can solve that using the power of data analytics, because you know where the problem is, you know how that can be solved, and that from there you can get some actionable results which will actually improve the entire set of the process. So basically, data analytics is something which focuses on performing statistical analytics on the existing database. So what does that mean? So if you think about it, there's a lot of different sources which generate data, right? From every survey that you take, from every click that you make, from every order that you create, and everything that you do, anywhere that you store data is some form of data is being stored. Every action that you do, some form of data is being stored somewhere. Now when this data is collected, you have a set of this huge amount of data which has every single action which is taken into account while doing a process. So every single step that you did has this data points which is there. Now with the job of the data analyst is to concentrate on creating methods which will capture and process this data and organize this in such a manner that you can find out the patterns, or you can uncover what is that small insights inside of this data which will actually solve your problem. So that is the job of a data analyst. Their job is to have that huge set of data which they have, which sometimes do not tell you the entire story, right? So there is this problem with data, right, that sometimes some things are very obvious. Like if I have a company that makes clothes, it's fairly obvious that I should make clothes for I should have stock for winter clothes or during the winter time, because that is when the requirement will be high. This is something which is fairly very reasonable. Now if we get into the depth of it, now there are different kinds of woolen materials which are out there, right? Different kinds of products which exist. Now if in order to maximize your sales, you have to understand what your customer base actually wants. What is that something inside of that cloth that the customer is looking for? May it be softness, may it be how warm it keeps them, what different kinds of things, what is that something which attract my customer. Now the job of the data analyst is to find out what is that small insight that will solve that problem, that will make my whole process more efficient. And that is what you're looking at. If you want to become a data analyst, you will be solving problems which are there with respect to your organizations. You will have a huge data set to look at it, and your job will be to find different models, different patterns, and uncover the unknown possibilities which are there inside of that data. So the data is always telling you different things at every point of time, right? It's the job of the data analyst to actually look at this data and find out what it is actually telling. Sometimes the truth might be in front of you in hindsight, but you cannot know unless you perform data analytics on it, and that is why data analytics is very important. Now, the field of data analytics is directed towards solving a problem, as I mentioned before, because they are looking to solve some particular problems with respect to this. So that is why there is some kind of this metrics which are involved, right? So that you can have some directed approach, a pinpoint approach on things to find out what the analysis might look like if you want to solve a particular problem. So basically, data analytics is used to solve the problems to which the answers is unknown. You do not actually know if one particular metric might be the answer to it. You just try to put different kinds of fields into that particular data and you try to find out that one particular insight that will help you immediately improve things if you make some small changes. So that is the job of that is the impact that data analytics bring. And how do you find out these points? So there is a lot of different ways. So not everybody can just look at numbers and tell you, right, okay, this looks like 7.5, so this might be this, but that does not happen in real world. That is only movies. In the real world, it's very important that every organization makes a very informed decisions in their world. To make those informed decisions, what people do is they plot different kinds of graphs, they have charts, they have usage meters, and they have different fluctuation points. And as you can see in the image on the screen as well, so there are different kinds of dashboards for different kinds of data, and you pull this data from various different sources into one place. So as you can see in this image right here, if you think about Google Analytics offers you this huge amount of analytics which takes data from everywhere. So you can see it can gather data from Google Plus, it can gather from your Google searches, from your YouTube watches, and what are the different Google products that you're using. It takes information from everywhere, even your Android phone. It can take all of that into account and then put yourself in a point where you can make an informed decision, because you are taking the data sets from so many multiple sources. You're covering basically all the aspects as you can. Similarly, then you can connect data wherever it lives, right? So it is very important that you take multiple sources into account rather than one particular source. Having multiple sources into account will ensure that you are making an informed choice, because you have not missed some data points. There might be some data points which you might consider that these might be irrelevant, but when you go into analytics of it, it might affect or impact very huge in huge amounts. So that is something which you have to keep in mind when you are working with data analytics, that it's not in every case that some particular field might not work out. So you have to take into account that you have to take data from wherever it lives, convert it into fashion that you can actually use that, and you apply your models and different analytical model, and you see what the graph is telling you, and you find out. As you can see, the January to February different plots are moving here and there, so you can find out which months different products were more in demand, less in demand, what was the age group that was in that wanted that particular product, and what the percentage might be, how many new users are coming, if your particular video is getting more likes or dislikes, what is the average watch time, what is the point where viewers are giving you maximum retention and stuff like that. So it is very stunning how much information small data sets can give you and can actually transform the way you perform business. Moving further, let's talk about what are the skills to become data analyst. So now we understand what is data analytics, we understand what is data, we know that it is the job to solve problems through looking at different data sets. And this is not something you can do very easily without knowing stuff. So you have to understand, you have to gain skills in order to become data analyst, and that is what we are dealing with next. So to become a data analyst, there are 4 things which are very important, and you'll see it across almost all of the job descriptions out there. First and foremost thing is the knowledge of statistics. Every data analyst who is working out there has fairly very decent knowledge of statistics, because every plotting or every manipulation that you do with respect to your data is based on some statistical method, or there is some statistics behind those manipulations that you're doing with respect to that data. So understanding what kind of statistical rule does what to your data and what insights that can produce is fairly important when you're working with data, because when you enter the industry, the problem statement will not be there like use this particular data set model to find this out. No, that will not be the case. The consumer, the stakeholders will give you a direct problem. Okay, this is XYZ is my problem, just tell me how do I solve it. In that, you have to understand the problem, you have to understand what kind of data that he has, and doing what kind of analytics or applying what kind of statistical factor will actually produce results which might give you the insights to solve that problem. So knowledge of statistics is fairly very important. Then a lot of companies today demand Python and R, but this is fairly more relevant for data scientists. So if you are someone who wants to move along with data science as well, you should understand well enough what is Python and R. But these days the requirement for data analysts also include Python and R, so it is very important that you know that. Other than that, you must understand data wrangling, which is basically working with data. So different kinds of data will be there, and you have to find out how to work with that data, make it more efficient and usable. So you have to know that. And then you have to have the knowledge of database technologies, which as Pig and Hive are very, very important with respect to that. Other than that, another thing which you'll find across all of the jobs for data analyst is a proficiency in Excel. So if you want to become a data analyst, you must understand how to use Excel, because Excel is something you might consider that it might not be that relevant, but trust me when I say this, Excel is far more beyond powerful that you understand. It is a very, very, very useful tool which is used across industries by almost every company which is out there, because every data analyst at some point touches huge amounts of sheets, and that is where Excel comes into the picture. Moving along, there are some other skills which you need to have, not just with respect to the technology, but with respect to yourself. So you need to develop this analytical skills, because you need to understand how to work with large amounts of data, what are facts, what are figures, and how this different graphs is telling you what. So having that sense of understanding of how data works is fairly important. And analytical skill is very, very important, because when not you have to look at different graphs, right? But the graphs only show you visual representation. It's you that understands what that particular graph is actually telling you. The graphs are just numbers and figures, but the insights that you gain is your own. So that is where the analytical skills comes into the picture, and you can develop this through practice, through working with a large amount of data with a different number of problems. When you work through it, you develop analytical skills on your own and nothing else. Other than that, there is another very, very important factor, which is with respect to the communication skills. So a lot of people who are working as data analysts are working for some stakeholders, right? So the stakeholders don't understand these facts and figures. If I just bring to you that these are the numbers which we have and this is what is going on, that does not paint you the whole picture. Even the plotting of the graph might not tell you the whole picture, because they do not understand what kind of statistical approach you have applied to gain that graph, correct? So in order to make them understand, you need to tell them what kind of analytics that you performed and what is the results which are coming out of that, and that can be only done through communication skills. So as a data analyst, you will be performing those analytics on the data set, but you will have to communicate that to the end users, to the stakeholders, so that they can work on solving those complex problems based on the suggestions that you give them. Moving along, then there is critical thinking. So data analysts must look at numbers, trends. They gain this knack. So every experienced data analyst has this knack of working with data. So they just look at these numbers and they have this intuition about it, about how the things are going to work. And communication skills further help a team in having that critical thinking, because a team has this set of very bright individuals who have different ideas, and communicating across the board about these particular ideas that you have can bring out the best idea to the point where you can gain bring more efficiency to your team and bring out better insights for your team and your company. So that is where that comes into the picture. And uh, it's basically an art. So basically, if you think about it, data analysts are performing an art at the end of the day. They are making this beautiful graphs, beautiful pie charts, beautiful pictures, which are telling people what is going on with respect to their company, with respect to their product, or for that matter with respect to their servers, CPU, whatnot. So this is basically a work of art that they do. So a lot of you would be wondering, how is data analyst different from data science? So let me clear that out first. A lot of people think, and this might actually be correct, and data analytics is a part of data science. Data science is a huge umbrella of domain which has a lot of different things. So when you are learning about data science, or if you want to become data scientist, you must have the skills of a data analyst in the first place, because you need to understand all of those basic technologies as well. A lot of people that I personally know have moved on from being data analyst to a data scientist position, because you have to gain the experiences and the knowledge of a data analyst and then learn more to become data scientists. So these two are fairly very easy. To put it into simple terms, if you think about it, if you want to think of a data analyst, if I have the question of, okay, this is my data, and this is the problem that I have, how do I solve the problem looking at this data set? You are looking at a data analyst. They will look through the data and tell you the nooks and crannies and pins and points which are actually impacting how your product is performing. While if I want to find out how my product will do in the future, if I want to find out what the future looks like and what these data points are telling me and how my future sales look like, I'm looking at a data scientist. So if you want to solve a problem which answers the questions of now, you're looking at data analyst. And if you want to predict the future based on the past and the different, very, very different points that you have, then you're looking at somewhere of a job of a data scientist. But if you have to become a data scientist, you must understand that a data analyst has all every data scientist has all the skills of a data analyst, because both of them are fairly inclusive. Because data science, you can think about it as the big center, a big umbrella of which data analyst is a part of. So that is just to clear things out with respect to that. Moving along, let's see about the few job descriptions that we have with respect to data analysts. So we went through a few job portals today to find out what is the requirement with respect to few data analyst jobs. So let me share with you real quickly. So there is this one job for Uber. As you can see here, it is mentioned that they must have excellent analytical skills, that you must be able to connect the dot between the data and the operations and get that intuition that you need to have that intuition about what the data is telling you. So it's not just about that. So it is very important to have a very good analytical thinking, and it is something that you can develop with being exposed to data analytics again and again and again and again, because once you get a zest of it, you develop that knack upon yourself where you can solve the problems on your own. Other than that, Uber demands that you must have excellent knowledge of Excel and general programming languages and coding skills. So general programming languages and coding skills here mean R and Python, which we discussed, and Excel skills are very important. As I mentioned before, Excel, if you are looking to become a data analyst, it is something that you must know. It is very, very, very important. Other than that, a data analyst is expected to learn data visualization as well, because it's you who understands the statistics, but you have to show the end users or the stakeholders or even different members of the different teams. You have to tell them about what the data is telling you, and you can do that through graphs, and that is done through data visualization. So having an experience with data visualization will something which was required at Uber. Other than that, basic understanding of statistical techniques and the ability to solve problems and employ business solutions to it is something which Uber demands. So again, everything that we have covered so far is the demand of Uber. Let's look at the another job description at Disney. So you are looking at, again, Python and R. So programming languages and statistical programming language is important. So Python and R is there itself. Then familiarity with data exploration as well as data visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI. So as we mentioned before, data visualization is basically for your stakeholders and end users. Every data analyst is expected to have some knowledge with respect to the visualization tools. And then there is understanding of statistics and strong communication skills, as well as written, which will contain both written, verbal, and presentational skills, because a data analyst has to work with a team of a lot of different people. He has to communicate across the board to various different people, and they need to understand what the data is telling them so that they can implement the measures or go ahead and solve that problem based on the insight that you have provided. So that is what basically this job description is all about. And this is something that we've covered across this session so far. Moving along. So what is a path to learning data analyst? So how do you become a data analyst? The thing is very simple. So you need to start with understanding the basic W's of what, why, when, and how. These are the things which you need to understand. Basic terminologies inside of data analytics and different things of data analytics you need to understand before starting off with data analytics all alone. So basic W's of data analytics as to why you are solving that problem, how you can solve that problem, different things is something that you start with. Then once you have the understanding of that, you move along and understand the different basic mathematics and statistics behind these data analytics models and different techniques which are out there. So understanding statistics is something that you do next, because moving further, you will be applying those statistical models to the data set, right? So you understand what the data is and different basics of data sets, and then you understand statistics. Then a logical next step would be applying that statistics to your data set, right? So that will be data processing techniques. So how do you apply different statistical models and different sets to those particular data sets is something that you understand. So data processing techniques is something that you have to learn, and you have to understand. To do that, you need to have the knowledge of how databases work. So you need to understand database technologies, and finally, when you have applied all that statistics on that particular data set, so you pull the data from some point, you apply your statistical models to it, and then you visualize that data towards the end. So using R and Python, you get some insights, and then you plot the data in some form so that it is accessible for the end users to understand what is actually going on. Moving along, let's talk about the average salary of a data analyst. So a junior data analyst basically in USA earns about $80,000, and a senior data analyst is looking at a figure of $110,000. And again, the difference between a junior and a senior data analyst is not more than 4 or 5 years at max. 3 to 5 years you can take for an approximate duration. So at an entry level in India, you're looking at a figure of around 7 LPA as an average. Obviously, companies like Uber and Myntra and a lot of different companies hire for a huge package. Companies like PhonePe pay their data analysts up to 12 lakhs also. So that is even for freshers, I'm saying that. And when they get into the senior roles, they earn an average of 15. But if you go to a good company, you're looking at a figure of around 24-25 LPA very easily, because analyst is something which is always in demand, because everyone is producing data. With every single click, every action that you do, you produce some kind of information, and that is data to which some analytics can be performed, and every company can improve with data analysts. Hence these figures are fairly high, because that is something which every company requires. And to conclude all of this session that we have had so far, basically, it is very easy to lie with statistics, but it is very hard to tell truth without it. It is something that you should think about, because this is a very hard-hitting quote, because it is very, very easy to lie with statistics. You can tell, okay, this is happening, that I did this, that, this is the numbers, this is what the numbers are telling. You can lie with those numbers fairly easily, but you cannot tell the truth without those numbers, because everybody will ask, okay, what's the source behind this? What is how you are getting these statistics? What is this coming out of? And it is very hard to tell truth without statistics, and that is where data analytics comes into picture. It tells you the real picture, it helps you solve the problems, and that's why there is a lot of job demands, lot of job roles which are out there, and a huge demand in the market for data analysts. So where do we go about and learn these data analytics? So if you are someone who has no idea about data analytics, so you are in good hands, because we at Intellipaat, we understand that an investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. That's why we have carefully created a lot of free content for people who are just starting out. So we have Intellipaat blogs as well as YouTube channel we have. So if you are someone who likes to read, you can go ahead and read about different technologies on our blog for free. Or if you're someone who enjoys watching videos and video tutorials, you can check out our YouTube channel. It covers a lot of different technologies, about 150 oddish technologies that we cover, about different things that you can go ahead and learn. So that is somewhere a good starting point, but not somewhere you want to finish learning, because that is a good starting point. But if you want to learn about data analytics, then you are looking at a paid course where you have this instructor-led training where they tell you how to learn and stuff like that. And it is very important that you learn with good instructors, that you have the hands-on training. And to land the job, it is very, very, very important to have very good projects on your resume. So make sure that you get those on your resumes as well. So with that, we have come to the end of this session, guys. So I hope this was an informative session. If you have any queries with respect to this session or any other session that we had, you can leave a comment down below and we'll be happy to assist you. For any other doubts and clarifications, or if you want to reach out to us, the numbers are on your screen and you can call us at any time that you want. We are a 24/7 running organization. So you can check us out whenever you want, and you can call us at any time. So with that, we have come to the end of this presentation. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.